Click for IB Biology. We're moving on now to look at community and competition within that community. There's a blank PDF of this presentation down in the description. You can annotate that with your own notes. There's 10 questions with answers, and there's also an AI prompt in there that you can cut and paste into a chatbot and individualize your learning. So this is a new word, the word community. So ecology, as we've already discussed, is about the distribution, the location of organisms and their abundance, and the factors which actually are affecting that distribution and abundance. Ecologists study these factors within a particular location. We call these ecosystems. Now, an ecosystem is composed of two parts. There's the community and the habitat. So this is a useful way to start constructing models of locations that you might study in your ecology course. So what kind of an ecosystem are you looking at? What are the members of the community, and what is the habitat? The habitat is described by the abiotic, non-biological factors. So we'll leave that at that point there and focus our attention on the community structure. So the community is made up of different species. And of course, each species has a population. We've discussed populations already. So there are a number of different species within the community. And when studying an ecosystem, that might be one of the challenges, that you identify all of the species within the community so you can start to build a model of that community. And then what we discover is that the species will be interacting, and this interaction is largely characterized by these factors here. And notice that so many of, almost all of them, have got some aspect of feeding built into them. So competition between and within species, predation, herbivory, parasitism, mutualism, and pathogenicity. And these have a big impact on the populations of the different species interacting with each other. We're going to begin by taking a look at competition. And here are two aspects of competition. There's intraspecific competition, but there's also intraspecific cooperation. So let's do the competition first. Now, through the course, you will build up many examples of competition within a species and between species. Intra is in the species. So in this particular image, you see there are red deer. The location is actually in Scotland, and we're talking about them competing with each other. And for this focus, I'm going to focus on the male animal here, which is the stag. And the stag is competing to breed with the females here, which are called the hinds. Now, the basis of the competition initially is often that the animals will call to each other. The male animals will call to each other, called rutting, and the animal with the more dominant voice will win. If that fails, then they may run up and down parallel to each other, and they'll display their antlers to each other. The animal with the largest antlers will win, and so far there's been no direct interaction. If all of that fails to separate the two animals to a winner and a loser, then they may actually begin to battle together using their antlers as weapons. And this is very, very dangerous for the animals, because a small cut can end up actually costing the animal its life. So direct competition that way is avoided as much as possible. However, one of the animals will win and will take advantage of breeding and passing on their genes to the next generation through their reproduction. So the intraspecific competition example I'm giving you is between male stag deers for the herd of hinds. Now, intraspecific cooperation, on the other hand, is where the animals work together to improve their own survival, and this is also described in the process of which is called altruism. So they're going to cooperate together. Now, some examples of the ways in which red deer will cooperate with each other. They stay together in a tightly grouped herd, and if they sense the approach of a predator, then they are likely to alert each other to that, either through their behavioral movements or perhaps through vocal cords, vocal coordination. They cooperate with each other through finding food as well, so that as they find food, especially the males actually, will lead the females to a particular location where the feeding is better. And this is particularly of note during the winter when the ground is covered with snow. The males are usually particularly good at finding the food, and that allows the females to feed, whilst of course they are with calf at that time of year. So those are some initial introductions to the idea that within a species you could be competing or you could be cooperating, and this will affect the population size and structure. There is also, of course, cooperation between species, and for this I'm using one of my local examples, in which in this area of Southeast Asia we have very common birds. One is the Oriental Magpie robin, and the other is the Asian Quail. These animals compete for aspects of space, and in particular are in their feeding and the food that they actually are going to feed from, which can be almost omnivorous insects and perhaps some types of fruit on the trees. But they also compete for space in the trees in which to nest. And the quail is a larger bird. Its population size is usually smaller, but there's an ongoing continuous battle between these two animals for these two particular parts of the community structure, to the extent that the Asian quail is also what's called a brood parasite, which you might be more familiar with this idea with respect to cuckoos. So the female, this is the female here, will actually lay its eggs in the nest of the Oriental magpie, and the Oriental magpie will gestate those eggs, and actually the magpie will support the young fledgling quail. And so this is a way in which the Asian quail gains a competitive edge over the Oriental magpie. We're going to come across lots and lots of examples of interspecific competition, and the student should log those as examples as you go through your course. So in the next video, we're going to look at other aspects of community structure and community interaction. Here's the channel link, and there's the playlist.